Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Inshallah. So today, alhamdulillah, as promised, inshallah, we will periodically be bringing some of our Ustadhs, some of the teachers here who have been on this path for many, many years. And like with any journey, someone who's gone further ahead, it's easier for them to be able to find you and tell you what pitfalls to miss, inshallah. Ustadh Zafar is someone who has studied under the teachings of Shaykh Ahmed Dabah for over 20 years. And he is...
Less than that.
Oh, 11 years, mashallah. Hearing different riwayas, I think, mashallah. Mashallah, he is also a successful businessman who has dabbled in telecoms, in property, and mashallah, is the success of both the dunya and the akhirah, someone who we can really take as an example for us of how to live a balanced life, how to live and gain the successes of the world, but not sacrificing the success of the hereafter. Today we're going to go through some of the course material in a more structured manner. So some people have attended some of the gatherings, and this one's going to take a slightly different format, just looking at some of the material that we actually embark on to understand the course and to go through the details, inshallah. Feel free to make notes or ask questions as and when you can, inshallah. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Ustadh Zafar. Jazakumullah khair.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'du fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, it's a privilege and honor to be here amongst you brothers and sisters today. Upon the invitation of our brother Talha, we did say we're going to try and be here more regularly with you brothers and sisters. He's doing a great job himself in bringing the teachings to the community here. As regards to, what Brother Talha mentioned is, first and foremost, myself, despite this attire, I'm not a scholar or any religious figure as such. I'm just a businessman, a worldly person who has fallen in love with the Sunnah, and I dress in this way of the Sunnah, and even majority of time I dress like this at work as well. Alhamdulillah, I'm privileged to be self-employed. I have my own business, so I don't have such restrictions of being able to dress in any particular manner. So I have this total freedom. As Brother Laha mentioned, I'm a property developer. I have businesses in telecoms, advertising. And why I mention this is also just to highlight to you that majority of us, we want success, worldly success. We want peace. We want security, financial security. We want to ensure that our families are looked after. So hence why we pursue things like business, career, and professions, just so we can tick all these boxes of having that security in this dunya. And one thing I have found is the more closer I draw to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more successful I become in the dunya. When we were growing up, we used to see religious people. I'm just telling you the true reality of our own perceptions. Mine, when I was growing up and we used to go to the masajid, we used to see the religious people in the masjid as being the Maulana Sahab who's always in the masjid. Just that's their full-time job. We used to think, a majority of times they were as well, disconnected from the outside world because they were shielded in the masjid and they don't really have a clue what's going on in the real world out there. But our teachers and mentors, our shuyukh have taught us to pursue the dunya as well, to become successful and become the best in what you do. Whether it's business, or it's a career, become the best, because that way you will become a productive member of society. They don't teach you to go and sit in the masjid and do your worship 24/7 and then you become a dependent on society. You become somebody who's looking for handouts, who's always looking for others to help him or her. You become the powerful people in society that you can make a difference. There's a hadith Qudsi that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that this dunya is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is again a saying of the beloved Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the dunya, O dunya, whichever of my servants desires me, i.e. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and fulfills the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O dunya, you become its servant, you serve that person, gather all their rizq and make their livelihood and their dunya easy for them. If however, on the reverse, if any of my servants desires you, i.e. the dunya, more than me, i.e. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then O dunya, you scatter this person's rizq everywhere and you make them chase you and their rizq around and humiliate them, tire them out, and basically make their life difficult for them. And that's exactly what's happening out there at the moment. Or those people who have made dunya their objective, they are chasing the dunya. Yes, they want success. There's nothing wrong with success, but if it comes at a cost of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you will unfortunately become another casualty, another statistic who is just lost in the dunya, and you've basically traded the dunya for the hereafter. So just going back to why I mentioned this is that once we embark on this journey to become the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will find that the dunya becomes easier for you. And I've experienced this, I've seen it with so many other of my own friends, close associates who have embarked on this journey, and where they've made the akhirah their goal, their objective, then the dunya will definitely become easy. So just to start on this presentation that I wanted to go through with yourselves, again, these are meant to be interactive sessions. I'm not here just to give a lecture. These are meant to be thought-provoking sessions where you walk away with a paradigm shift. You walk away where your mind has been stretched to a new dimension, and whenever your mind is introduced to a new idea or it's been stretched to a new dimension, it will never ever return back to its old ways again, because you've had like an opening, an intellectual opening. So this is what we try and aim to do, inshallah. So starting at the beginning, one of the biggest problems that we have now is an identity crisis. We as Muslims, as individual human beings, are having an identity crisis. We don't know our true identity. Who are we? So if I was to ask this room here to shout out some answers. So if I say, brothers, what is your identity? How do you identify yourself? What would you say? Please just shout out any answers.
My name.
Khalifas.
Name?
Khalifas.
Khalifas. Khalifa what?
Servants.
Sorry?
Servant of Allah.
Okay, mashallah. This brother is saying that he is the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya. Nobody's ever said that before when I've introduced this. As name, what else?
Muslim.
You're a Muslim, what else?
Ethnicity.
Hey? Ethnicity, that's a very strong one that we always identify with. Muslim, I'm Pakistani, I'm Indian, I'm Bangladeshi, I'm Syrian. That is gender. Anything else? No?
British Muslim.
Ji? British Muslim. So again, we're getting these various variations in identity as well. We mention this because as Muslims, at this moment in time, if you look globally around the world, we have an identity crisis, and we are actually suffering from an inferiority complex. I speak about also, people of my parents' generation. They've come to this country as economic migrants, and I still see a lot in their generation, this colonial mindset where they have this inferiority complex when they're even still talking to the white indigenous population. They have this inferiority complex, and I see it also in my generation as well. How many of us would walk, the way I'm dressed, how many of us would walk down London High Street or in Solihull High Street? I remember once I went to London to see some relatives, and we planned to go to central London, and one of my close relatives said, I'm not walking with you if you are dressed like that on the tube, right? So I said, why not? If I don't have a problem, why should you? Right? And this again is a reflection of their inferiority complex, that they are not confident. And just one example I can give you is look at the LGBT community in this country, or even around the world. This is one community, very small, but very powerful in their politics, in their identity, in them showcasing their identity. You know, the way they have worked hard politically, economically to embed their position in society, they don't suffer any inferiority in telling people who they are, the way they dress. So why should we as Muslims should be shy? We shouldn't. You know, there was a time when the Muslims were right at the top of the stratosphere of society, politically, spiritually, economically. The West used to look at them, look up to them, right? In terms of their dress, in terms of their manners, in terms of their education. But it's the other way around now. You go to the Muslim countries and they aspire to look like the people in the West. They aspire to copy their manners, their lifestyle, and it's all down to our lack of identity as to who we are and how strong and confident we are as in our identity. So in one way to understand that is to understand our story, who we are, where we come from, where are we now, and where are we going. Once you understand this, then your own expression, your own sort of identity will be much more stronger in terms of how you carry yourself forward and how confident that you are. So many people don't even know about, you know, where they've come from, where they are at this moment in time, and, you know, where they're heading for. And this is explained well in this next slide here. Just checking that, you know. Is there any chance we can have these couple of lights off, Umar, or if you can just take these lights off, maybe we can see the screen better, inshallah. This slide will show you that where we are at this moment in time. If you look at the middle here, the actual earth shows you where we are. And this life is so short that every single day we hear about death. Someone's died, someone's born, and, you know, we look at ourselves and you will realize how temporary, transient the nature of this dunya is. If each and one of you just analyzes your own life as to how old you are at this moment. So don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to shout out how old you are. Just think for your own self how old you are and how quickly you've got here. How quickly you have got here. And that shows you how rapidly life is passing by. And in this dunya, you know, we're here for such a short period of time. We often hear people say that when we go to a janazah, a funeral. I was there, I attended 3 funerals this week. And always at the time of the janazah, the funeral, we always talk to each other, oh, this life is so short. You know, we really need to prepare for the hereafter. But as soon as we walk out of that masjid and the glitter and the attraction of the dunya grabs us and we forget what we've just spoken about in the masjid. We forget we've just seen a dead body that who may have been younger than us. But we just get completely seduced by the dunya. And just to give you an idea, in an average life of 60 years, you will be spending 22 years in sleep. Makes sense, doesn't it? If you're spending from 24 hours a day, if you're spending 8 hours in bed, or should be, then that's 1/3 of your life spent sleeping. Then if you take away the time that you spend in education, the time that you spend at work, majority of us go to work, we don't really enjoy it. We go because we have to, it's a means to an end. We have bills to pay, especially in this current crisis, living costs crisis that we are in. And then if you analyze the actual time that you've got, which is your own time, it comes to about 7 years, your own spare time where you've got total freedom to do what you want. And if you analyze the daily time you spend in the bathroom over a period of 60 years, that's 2 years that you've spent in the bathroom. I bet nobody's ever thought about this before, like that before. The 2 years of your life you've spent in the bathroom, right? So it just shows you how quick this life is. And the reason why we mention this is just to make you realize that this wasn't the real objective of why we've been sent here. We weren't sent here to build a career, to make that an objective. It's wrong when you make that the objective, the business, to make millions, to run for office, political office, get some sort of an accolade. A majority of us, as I've said before, as per that Hadith Qudsi, you know, if we become like obsessed with the dunya and we make that an objective, we really become humiliated on this earth. That's why if you look at the politicians around the world who want to just get into office, how they are being humiliated. Is this Joe Biden at the moment? Look at how he's making a fool of himself on the international stage. What is that? That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala humiliating these people in public. Me and you can see that this person is not fit to be standing on the world stage running for election, but he can't see that because the hearts are blind. It's because once they make that their objective, then the arrogance that they have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them do foolish things, and that's exactly what is happening out there at the moment. And you'll see that in your own family or friendship circles. If anybody who has become obsessed with the dunya and has made that an objective and they become arrogant in the process, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make them do foolish things in public. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will humiliate them. And this is a hadith as well, in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says anybody who is arrogant, they will become more foolish. And anybody who is humble, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts more wisdom into them. So this is the test. This is the formula for success. Become more humble, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gift you with more wisdom. Going back to this diagram, how many of you seen this before? If you can just show, just 1, 2, 3, okay, good few, but majority haven't. But okay, reminder is good for the believer. I mean, every time I look at this diagram, I get fascinated by this. I've seen this many times over the years, and as time goes on, we always improve the graphics and the look and feel, but the message is still the same. That originally, okay, we're here in this dunya, but before this, our birth happened many millions or billions of years ago in the spiritual realm. Before mine and your spirit was created, there was nothing other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His blessed attributes. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the only entity, the divine being that existed. Nothing else ever existed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then created the world of spirits. That's everything, the humankind, the jinn kind, the animals, the plants, the mountains, everything that is a creation was created. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked all the entire creation who will like to take a gift, an amana, a trust, that if they take that and if they look after it, then there is so much success waiting for them. And if they misuse that amana, breach that trust, then the punishment is also very severe as well. And that amana, brothers and sisters, for those of you who've seen this before, what was that amana then? Let's see if you remember it. So you put your hand up, but I'm going to pick on you. So what was that amana that we took up at the request of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offered and we took it up. What was it?
It was to have the choice to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas all the rest of creation didn't take that amana on, so by default they have no choice. They have no
MashaAllah.
free will.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, brother. Spot on. The gift, the amana that was offered was free will. The ability to do whatever we wish. If we want to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we obey. If we want to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we disobey. So unlike human beings and jinn, angels are constantly in the obedience and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't have this concept of free will that me and you have. And also, they said even like other creation, when they heard that this free will was the ability to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they actually cried. They said the mountains cried that how can any creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala disobey their Lord? But when we took this free will, we obviously said, Ya Allah, you are our Lord. We will, of course, we will obey you. We love you, we obey you, we will worship you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, you say I am your Lord, you will worship me, but let me test you. Let me see if you really, as I say, put your money where your mouth is. Are you just saying that with your tongue, or do you really believe that you're going to be really in taking that on board and doing the worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, let me send you to this dunya. This is the testing abode, and to see how you and I exercise our free will. And look around you, how we are abusing that free will by disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we sometimes obey, but we sometimes disobey. There's Muslims, there's different categories of human beings, even within Muslims as well. You're a Muslim by name, maybe you're always disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you're one of those Muslims who it changes like the weather. Okay, today you feel like obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tomorrow you feel like disobeying, you disobey. It's your choice. And this is why we have dunya, which is always tempting us. We have the shayateen, who are always whispering into us. And we have our own nafs, which is the emotional self, which has the feelings, which is always leading us astray and causing us to be mischievous, causing us to be disobedient. And these are all the various different things, including evil human beings as well. We have bad company, friends who always lead us astray or take us on the wrong path, and just to be in their company or just to stay friends with them, we end up following them and end up then becoming like them. Are you all following me so far? Yeah, just to make sure that on this journey you're still with me and I haven't left you far behind. I want to keep an eye on the time as well. So within this dunya, that's why atheists ask us, when we talk to atheists, agnostics, and they say, if there is a God, why is there so much evil in the world? Why is there famine? Why are there wars? How would you answer that? Anybody, please raise your hand. So if an agnostic or atheist said to you that if there was a God, why is there war? Why is there evil? Why is there famine? Sister at the back, please shout your answer.
God tells us to worship him, he doesn't control us, we have free will, but he wants us to stay good, but some people don't follow the rules.
MashaAllah. That's why I have to put my ear that way so I can hear. Sometimes a bit hard of hearing. That is, mashallah, a brilliant answer. The answer is that we, the human beings, are practicing free will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've given you free will. This is the dunya, which is a perfect, dunya is not perfect, but it's a perfect testing ground to test me and you. So all this evil you see is the evil that we have created with our own hands. It's the evil, if there's famine in the world, it's because it's of our actions. There's people starving in some parts of the world. If there's war, like injustice is going around, genocide in some parts of the world, like Gaza, it's because of the evil actions of human beings who are practicing free will and obviously exercising their free will to practice evilness, which is blatant for me and you to see. So in this dunya, once you die, then you go into the grave, the world of the barzakh, and even then we say either your grave is a sort of pit of hell or a garden of paradise. So again, it depends on your deeds as to how your grave will turn out. And that grave will be in that condition for you up until the day of judgment. And that is the day of judgment where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will exercise His adl, His justice, and mercy, His rahmah. And if any of you, myself and everyone, if we ever go into Jannah, we get blessed with an abode in Jannah, just remember it's due to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not adl. Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exercised His adl, His justice, me and you would not stand a chance, because our deeds are not even worthy of being presented in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our deeds have so many defects. There's so much insincerity, there's so much boastfulness, there's so much other corruption in those deeds. And when we pray salah, we do the zikr of Allah, we fast, even our hajj, it lacks that sincerity and it lacks the standard that it should be in terms of the, as per Allah's majesty. We never ever have been and will be able to worship Him. And if you have been an evil person, then obviously then there's an abode in hellfire that is awaiting you. That's when we can say to the agnostics and the atheists that the actual justice is going to be done on that day of judgment. All the evil that you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to recompense the people who have been killed, the innocent people in Gaza who have died. That's the day when they will be getting their justice. The evil people will be punished. So the reason I show you this as a bigger, wider picture is to show you your overall story. This is our one-way journey from the world of spirits into the dunya, into the barzakh, day of judgment, and the final abode of hell and heaven. And reason why you need to grasp this is so you can understand the real small speck of this life in the dunya, in the overall picture. Because what happens is that me and you have made the dunya everything. We think this dunya is our ultimate objective. We forget the whole bigger, wider picture. As we always say, look at the bigger picture. Once you understand and see the bigger picture, everything will fall into place. So the problems that me and you are having in this dunya, maybe we're having financial problems, maybe we're having health problems, maybe we're having marital problems. Everybody has some problem or another. I can guarantee you that. If I sat down with every single one of you, you'll be able to list some problems that you are having. There'll be very few rare people who do not have problems, but the majority of us are having some challenge or another. And the reason we are having these challenges is because it's the nature of this dunya and the nature of the test that we have been sent to go and undertake here. So that's why if you don't know this, then your problems would become all-consuming, most dominating in your lifetime. You'll be saying, why me? Why me? Why am I suffering from these health problems? Why are so many other people, enjoying having a good time financially, but I'm the one who's always scraping the barrel and always, skint? And why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not blessed me with money? It's because everybody is going through a different test. It's the same with marital problems. The amount of people who come to us for counseling, and the people have these misconceptions. Unfortunately, many people have grown up watching Hollywood, Bollywood films, and they think there's this thing about boy meets girl and they get married and live happily ever after. When we were at school, we used to read Romeo and Juliet, and our teacher normally says that the reason why they keep talking about Romeo and Juliet is because they never actually got together and got married. If they did, the love story would have turned sour very quickly after marriage. Yeah, they never got to see the other side of marriage when the bills come through and the nappies and the children take over your life. So this is the misconceptions that many people have, and that's why sometimes they cannot comprehend the real testing nature of this dunya. And that's why non-Muslims commit suicide. Because if you look at the pop stars and the film stars and the rich celebrities, why do they commit suicide? Me and you, we think, hang on, he's got mansions, all this money, name and fame. Why did he need to commit suicide? You know, if I was in his place, I'd be really happy. But they don't know this whole picture. They think they've been born here. Their entire existence only starts from the moment they were born, and their purpose was to become something in this life. So they think to themselves, okay, let me make my first million, and when I make that million, I'll be happy. Or let me become a big movie star. When I make my first big movie, I'll be happy. So when they get to that goal, and then they think, hang on, I'm still unhappy. I still feel this emptiness inside me. Maybe if I make another few million, I'll be happier. Then they keep on going up towards this upward trajectory in their life, whether it's money, whether it's name and fame. And, they think, okay, once I marry this woman, or once I'm with her, I'll be happy. And then they start drinking. Maybe there's happiness in alcohol, or I need to take drugs just to give myself that little bit of a kick, dopamine rush to make myself happy. That's how people destroy themselves, especially the non-Muslims, because they're looking for something which is peace, happiness in this dunya, and that's always eluding them. And whereas we know the real peace, happiness, the sukoon is in the remembrance and being in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to touch upon this, I'm going to come on to this point about why the hearts find rest and contentment in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and why the people who have all the trappings of wealth end up committing suicide or falling into depression, or constantly chasing the next big fix because they think that's the answer to their problems. So again, just reinforcing about our identity, a human being is made up of 5 components. Let's hear from yourselves, what are those 5 components that a human being is made up of? Shout out your answers, please.
Mind.
Okay, brother says mind. Sorry? Soul. Ji. Heart. That's 3. Body, yes, obviously you've got a heart and a mind has to go in a body, isn't it? So 5th? Okay. Some people call the soul the nafs as well, but the word I was looking for, spirit, ruh. Yeah? So let me recap that. It's actually here. You have the body, physical body, but majority of us identify ourselves with our body. That's wrong as well. Because if you're old enough as I am, and you look at your pictures from childhood to in your 20s and the 30s and 40s, you'll see how the body changes. You'll see how the body changes. And when somebody dies, they don't say, this is Zafar, this is Nazir, this is Bashir. They say, the body. Can you please bring the body? Take the body to the cemetery. So really when you die, your name even gets removed from your physical self. They just keep referring to you as the body. So the body is not our true identity. So the brother mentioned mind. Yes, we have a mind, the intellect. We have the heart, and we have the soul and the nafs and the spirit. So these are the 5 entities that make up the composition of the human being. But majority of the people just identify with the body, because that's the thing that they can see in the mirror, that they can just touch their own hands and their body. That's them. They think that is their identity. But the reason I was just mentioning a short while ago, that why the people who fall into depression and commit suicide are the ones who think that everything is in the physical body. The human identity is associated with the physical body. That's why they are always trying to eat the best foods. They want to dress in the best clothes. They want to enjoy the bodily physical pleasures because they think they have to keep feeding the body and that's what's going to make them happy. And they neglect the ruh. The ruh is what I mentioned to you earlier, just let me bring that back up again. If you go back to this diagram, in the world of spirits, the ruh is what met with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ruh is what spoke with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ruh is the one who took the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the free will. That's why the ruh finds peace, rest, contentment in the zikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Majority of the people, they neglect the nourishment of the ruh, which is that zikr, remembrance, presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And physically, they fall into these traps of depression, anxiety, and they're constantly fulfilling bodily pleasures and pursuing bodily goals in terms of feeding and dressing it. This is something very, very important that you should try and understand. In terms of identity, it's the ruh which is the most important aspect of the human being, because it has met with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, there's other things like, the mind, the nourishment of the mind is knowledge, intellectual stimulation, learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, learning about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The heart is the one with the traits. It has evil traits. Now, when we have problems with our heart, maybe our arteries are blocked, we run to the doctor saying that my heart is not functioning properly. But how many of us are concerned about the spiritual heart? The heart with the spiritual diseases, that many of us go into the grave with those diseases. We're very concerned when the physical heart is not working properly. But when the spiritual heart is not working properly, many of us are not even aware. Let me give you an example. Arrogance is a spiritual disease of the heart. And anybody with even a mustard seed's worth of arrogance will not even get to smell the fragrance of paradise. So how many of us know whether we have arrogance inside of us? Many of us go through life without even diagnosing these spiritual problems. And it's so, so important to be able to analyze the spiritual heart and see where the diseases are that which can be rectified. And that's what we specialize in through our teachings, our teacher. We specialize in taking these spiritual diseases out of anger, pride, arrogance, hatred, all these evil traits that we have in our hearts of impatience, hastiness. These things you have to treat, because if, let's say, people are dying of hunger, starvation, or in a war, those problems are only going to last until their life in this dunya. If, on the other hand, you've got problems spiritually, and if you die, which we will all die, it's inevitable. When you die, those spiritual illnesses will go with you in the grave and on the day of judgment. That this person had arrogance, this person had pride, this person had such evil traits in them, and he never ever cleansed his spiritual heart. Also, nafs, let me touch you very briefly on the nafs. The nafs itself is such an amazing entity. How many people here have studied the workings of the nafs? Nobody? Very, very little, if not, maybe nobody. I haven't even scratched the surface, and the little that I have studied about the nafs, I can tell you it's an absolutely amazing and also a very potentially destructive entity inside of us. And it has a life form of its own. It has its own momentum. And it's like a child. Okay, there's two examples. It's like a child that you have to control, or the more appropriate one is it's like a dog that you have to control. If you don't control it, then it's going to bite you. And let me just give you a little glimpse of how dangerous the nafs can be if you do not train it. Majority of the evil traits that people have inside of them, majority of the times they are fueled by their nafs. Just remember, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Iblis to prostrate to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, who was he listening to? There was no shaitan then. There was no Iblis then. When we make a mistake, we say, oh, the shaitan whispered to me, he made me do this. But who made the shaitan disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It was his own nafs. It was his own nafs. And the nafs is more dangerous than the shaitanic whispers, because the shaitanic whispers are just a little bit of whispering where a seed gets planted into your mind. But the nafs is associated with feelings. And once the feelings take over, they can drive you towards sin. It's a crude example, but it's a true example, that this day and age, you see a lot of people getting caught with indecent images of children, or, there's a lot of, it seems to be that there's a lot more pedophilia in our society than ever before. You know why that is? It's being fueled by the internet. These people who go on to pornography, very low level pornography, after a while of extended exposure, the nafs says, I'm sorry, this is not doing anything for me. I need a more of a dopamine rush. Then the person goes on to more extreme levels of pornography until the nafs keeps taking them to the next level of perversions and darkness, and they end up into areas of pedophilia and all sorts of other nasty things. It's the nafs, if you don't control, it can destroy you in that sense. It's the nafs, when you're eating and eating and eating, the belly says, I've had enough. But the nafs says, no, keep eating, this looks nice, that looks nice. Yeah. How many times you hear people say, oh, I used to go to this restaurant and their food's not good anymore. I've been there so many times now, but their standards have gone down. It's not their standards have gone down, it's your nafs, the standards have gone up. You've really, fed the same food to the nafs again and again and again. The nafs want something more. That's why there's always so many different restaurants and dessert places and shake places opening up, and people want to try them, people want to go here, they want to go there, because they are following the desires of their nafs. Does that make sense? Yes? Did you see the nafs like that before? Do you realize now that how, if you don't control it, it can destroy you? And the good news is you can control it. And it's there to be, it's like a child. You have to feed it in your own measured and disciplined way. Because if you don't, and you just give, when a child cries and you give it the toys or the phone or the sweets, and he cries even more, then you want to just shut the child up and give it even more. That's exactly the nafs. It cries, and you keep feeding its desires. Then he wants more. You have to control it. The nafs is there. It has rights over you. You have to fulfill its desires, but in a lawful and measured way. And if you do not control it, as I've said, it will destroy you. So that's the nafs. So these are the 5 entities that really, that make up a human being. And majority of the people die without even being told about this, forget understanding. Many people don't even have any knowledge of this or even made aware of these 5 entities that exist inside of them, and how the ruh is the most important, and how I've just explained to you, we can do a 2-day workshop just on the nafs itself, of how, the many scholars in the past and shuyukh have even wrote books and books about the nafs, how different stages they are, how many different stages there, and how we are to control it, how we are to look after it, and how we are to nurture it, so we control it and it doesn't control us. Bismillah, it's looking at the time as well. Okay, so let's just focus on the body for a moment. How we bring darkness into our spiritual heart through the actions of the body. We have 7 bodily organs that are like imagine, just, I'm going to show you this slide, but before I show it, but just imagine let's use our imagination. Imagine your spiritual heart, and imagine the 7 pipes coming out of that heart. And each pipe is connected to a bodily organ. And into that pipe, we are allowing darkness to enter and fill that vessel of the heart into this very strong darkness, blackness, that which basically, condemns the heart and makes it very evil, sinful. Let's go through these bodily organs one at a time. The first one is the eyes. So if you can please tell me, what sins do we commit with the eyes? You can shout the answers out. Do we commit sins with the eyes? What are they? G?
Not lowering your gaze.
Not lowering your gaze, yeah. That's a big one. And looking at na-mahram. What's the other big one? I mean, you said not lowering the gaze covers a lot of things. But just to be a bit more specific, we have things like, as I said, this is the day and age of internet pornography, which I mentioned before. It's so easy for people to fall into these sort of traps. And this issue, my brothers and sisters, we have dealt with from young children, very, very young age, to adults at a very, very, very old age as well. So this is not a case of, it only affects certain age groups. This is a rampant problem in our societies. It's been deliberately allowed to be, perpetuated and spread because they want to destroy mine and your spirituality. The evil people want to destroy our most treasured prized possession inside of us, which is our iman. And this is how they're going to destroy, and this is how they're going to steal it, is through these devices, through these things that they are, spreading, the filth they are spreading. Nobody's gonna come and beat you up on the head and say, renounce your religion and become a non-Muslim. They're just doing this through the apparatus that they've created to destroy our spirituality. And this is a very, very big problem that we have to ensure this. We, as an organization, also teach people how to overcome addictions if anybody is afflicted with anything like that. So you can, see us in total privacy, and we can show you how to overcome these through a mentor. We have male mentors for the brothers and female mentors for the sisters. So you can discuss this completely in private, to how to overcome these issues that if you ever are suffering from in your life. Let's talk about tongue. Again, another can become a very evil organ on our body. What are the sins that we commit with our tongue? Swearing. Backbiting. Lying. Eating haram. Eating haram it's associated with another bodily organ. We'll come on to that. What else? Singing, making false promises, ridiculing, vain talk, vulgar talk. There's about 15, 16 sins associated with the tongue. So just give me a moment. Sorry, I had to start a Zoom meeting for somebody at 8 o'clock. 1 second. Yeah, so there's 15, 16 sins associated just with the tongue on its own. And most backbiting, somebody mentioned. Backbiting is such a sin, which is such a grave sin. Such a grave sin that we don't even see it as a sin anymore. We just see it as a little bit of time pass, a little bit of entertainment. We sit with people and we want to completely destroy somebody's character and want to hear about all the gossip about them, and we feel we haven't heard enough, or please tell me more. What else did he do, or what else did she do? We are basically destroying people's character, people's reputation. So they say it's more dangerous Backbiting is more dangerous than if you went to the blessed house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and knocked down the Hana Kaaba. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the heart of my mu'min who you have hurt is more valuable to me than my blessed house. But how many hearts have we broken through this? Okay, next, again, I'm conscious of time. I'm just going to just finish off on these 7 organs. Ears, shout out the sins. This side's been a bit quiet. What sins do we commit with our ears?
Music.
Listening to music, yes, gee. What else? I'm sorry, I'm a bit deaf. Say that again. Eavesdropping, yes. What else?
Listening to backbiting.
That's right. If somebody's backbiting with their tongue, there's somebody listening with their ears as well. So listening to backbiting, mashallah. Hands, sins of the hands. Stealing, hitting somebody, yeah. Stealing, hitting somebody, touching nahmaram is another one. Stomach, okay. Somebody mentioned eating haram. That goes in the stomach. There's something else, intoxicants. Yes, Umar?
Overeating.
Yeah, mashallah. I was going to say there's something halal. When you do, when does it become haram? And that's overeating. You may be eating the best halal steak, but if you're overeating, then it becomes haram as well. Gluttony, this is a very, very evil habit that we should refrain from. And private parts needs no introduction, no explanation. And finally, feet. What sins can we commit with the feet?
Where we go.
Exactly. Going to the wrong places, whether it's cinemas, pubs, clubs, or going to meet somebody of the opposite gender. So when we are born, this is the natural state of the body. It's pure, it's illuminated. This is like it's illuminated with the nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the spirit has just come into this world after it's met with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's come from the spiritual realm. But what happens is that over the period of time, as we grow, we become mature from childhood to maturity. All these sins that we commit through our tongue, our eyes, our ears, and all these things slowly start darkening our spirit. And that's how people become evil, and that's how people become wretched. And you see them and you think, my goodness, this is such an evil person. It doesn't look like this person will ever come onto the right path and do any good deeds, because over a period of time they become so accustomed to committing evil that they become this evil person. That's not to say that there's no chance, no matter where you are, what stage of life you're at, you can always return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no need to be hopeless. We should always be hopeful, because we have the most merciful, the most generous, the most forgiving Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter how big mine and your sins are, just remember they are not bigger than the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is again another big trick of the shayateen, that they say to people, oh, you, my goodness, not you, there's no chance for you. The evilness inside you, all those evil deeds that you have committed, there's no point even you asking for forgiveness, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to forgive you. All I will say is that are we more evil, or have we committed more sins than the person who committed 99 murders, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave him as well and sent him to Jannah? I don't think there's anybody here who's committed 99 murders. You don't look like serial killers to me. And we're all sinful people. Even myself, we're on a path, we've been with a teacher, but don't forget, the more closer you try to become to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more you travel on this path, the bigger the test the shayateen will throw your way. Because if you are already out in the pub, the club, doing all the wrong deeds, the shayateen and his army, they say, leave him, he's all right, he's one of us. Yeah, there's no need to waste time with this brother or this sister, they're one of us. But as soon as you turn around and want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to go to the masjid, you want to do zikr, you want to become pious, then they say, right, we need to pay attention to him now, or her, and we need to make sure that they don't go any closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they come back to this path. And there comes a stage where the more pious you become, the more closer you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the general foot soldiers of the Shayateen's army go back to their generals and say, look, this brother here is really slipping through our fingers. We're finding it difficult to control him. We're finding it difficult to tempt him into his old ways again. Then they say, right, okay, we need to send some commando level Shayateen to this person. We need to send some higher level commandos now to deal with. And that's not a joke. This is true, because this is the same army of the Shayateen who has dealt with all the prophets. Yeah, they're very, very sophisticated. And one final example I give you before I close is, let's say that somebody is very pious, they're in the masjid 5 times a day, and you can never, the shaitan can never take him to the pub, he will never get him to look at somebody of the opposite gender, he'll always be lowering his gaze, he's always in worship. There'll be somewhere that the shaitan gets to that person without that person even realizing. Maybe he goes to the masjid in the morning for Fajr, and he leaves the masjid and he looks around and he says, look at all these people sleeping while I'm here praying, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These lazy people, they're sleeping. At that very moment, that seed of arrogance entered his heart or her heart. And that's when the shaitan's got him. Can you see how your enemy is always working on you without you even realizing? You just don't know when you are being attacked. Maybe you're reading Salah, some level of insincerity has come in and you're showing off to other people around you. Your prostration has become a bit longer because there's people watching. You just never know when you are being attacked. We're being attacked all the time. We are being attacked all the time, but you just never know when you've fallen into the trap. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide me first and foremost to act upon the nasiha that's been shared, and with all yourself as well, brothers and sisters. Any goodness is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all the mistakes are mine, and I pray that inshallah we can continue with this on another time. As you know, these topics are so vast, they're so important that we cannot do justice to them by just skimming through this in 1 hour. So inshallah, if you are with us, we will continue this journey again, and we're here to learn from each other. I'm not here to teach necessarily, I'm here to learn as well, but whatever little bit that I do know, I'm happy to share. And inshallah, we will continue this journey and maybe travel on this path together. Jazakallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all for listening and taking the time out today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair. MashaAllah. Allah bless you, Ustadh Zafar, for coming today. The good news is Ustadh Zafar doesn't live too far away, so inshallah we will see him more often. Coming here with us and joining us in Solihull. So there's a few new faces here, and there's a few people who've been here before. But some of you might be wondering, what's the reason we're here today? What's the purpose of this Sunday gathering? What's the difference to the Friday Quran gathering? What's different between our Quran lessons we do in Sunday school, our Tajweed classes? What's this for? Does anyone know? Some people have been coming for a month or 2 months. Yes?
So working on the
So that's a lovely word, but I don't know what it means to most people. So she said to develop our spirituality. What does that mean? Yes, Omar?
Purifying yourself.
Very good, purifying yourself. But you can purify yourself doing salah. You can purify yourself doing wudu. Why do you come here? What's the purpose of this and this?
purifying the organs.
Good. But you can do that by yourself. You can stop looking, you can lower your gaze. Yes, sir.
I think it's 2 things, personally. One is the practical elements of understanding how to perform that purification, to understand what are the actual steps to attain that process, and learning about that process. And the second is actually for the benefit of the communal experience, especially when we do the dhikr sessions as well, and feeling the reward and the connectedness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those sessions.
MashaAllah, very good. I'll summarize that in a very simple phrase. Here is where you learn the manual. It's where you learn and you have the support to do the things Ustadh Zafar talked about. How many of us really struggle with our belly? And we eat, and we just, more nice food, and we eat, and then you're like, who's going to help me? How many of us struggle to lower our gaze? And you might have given up. Maybe no one knows. Maybe your own family don't even know, but you know, and you struggle. And you like, who's helps me? I know it's haram. I hear it every Jum'ah, but no one is going to help me. How many of us are even aware of the things we said today? Today, forget yesterday, today. We backbite without thinking about it. A number of football groups I'm on, where they call this manager, they don't call them by their names, they always have a funny name for them. Like they call someone an egg, they call someone a thing, and it's all funny, it's all hilarious, but are these sins of the tongue? For myself, and for the brothers and the sisters who started, the intention is, I need to fix myself. And for years I've been trying, but I've never had the manual. Inshallah, today we'll be giving you the manual, inshallah. Okay? Quite literally. The blessed teacher, Ustadh Zafar, and our teacher, Shaykh Ahmed Dabbar, what they've done is they've taken all of the Quran, the Sunnah, the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, and they made it into a practical course book that you can take, that you can start, that you can go and read, and that you can begin, inshallah. So we've actually, as I promised, today is the launch day. Someone said we've heard some of these bits before, we've heard these little snippets. Today is the day you sign up. If you want to go ahead, today is the day you sign up. And the fact that you've come back, inshallah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question.
Yes.
Everything that we're doing here, how does it really fix our community out there? When you look at small things like parking in the wrong place at the wrong time, how do you correct that in a Muslim? Because it happens like 100%.
Excellent question, mashallah. I was at a talk yesterday where the sheikh insisted that he comes to teach it because he says he's never taught any of his students to frame it the way he wants to frame it. And what he said, and inshallah I'll talk about this maybe next week, he gave the prophetic blueprint. And what he said, I'll summarize it in a sentence. He says, if anyone tells you that if you fix yourself, you have to focus on yourself and ignore everything out there, they're wrong. And if anyone tells you we need to build the khilafah, we need to fix the parking, and they ignore themselves, they're wrong. But they have to do both. And what he did is he gave, from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the example of Mecca and the example of Medina. Mecca was building the self. Medina was building the community. And he gave a distinct blueprint for both. And the thing with this, and this is what happened with me, maybe Ustadh Zafar and others, is when you hear it, you're like, this is exactly what I've always known. It's not new, it kind of like, this is what the Quran is, this makes sense. And inshallah, the purpose of this is how do you fix the parking? By making someone aware they shouldn't park there. And so on and so forth.
This is happening, but there's nothing changed. So even at masjids, where we're going to do all this here, very spiritual there, but we don't park in the right place in the right order, and they'll be told, unless you impose a big fine, this is not going to happen. But no masjid has done this yet. So let's bring this to a practical level outside as well.
Very true, 100%. MashaAllah. And I think one of the things we're trying to do is very true. And I think one of the things that we are aiming with this is, you're right, the masjids give the khutbahs, they do the Quran lessons, they do, but something's not sticking because you learn the theory, but you need to tell people to walk the practical steps. And that's why I can't make you do the course. You know, people asked about commitment. Unless someone's aware of their sins, aware of their deeds, they won't know what to fix. So the first step is to make you aware and accountable. And you're right, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever blocks the road, there's no jihad for him. Imagine the greatest thing you can do, jihad. You're defending the land against none other than the Roman Empire at the time. And he says, whoever has blocked the road, there's no jihad. You know. So these things come, and inshallah, it's a wonderful question. It's a very honest question. And I think what's happened is, as a community, Shaitan has done everything he can to make us focus on the wrong things and not the right things. And that's what we want to try and do, inshallah. So, inshallah, I will open up for questions to allow people to take advantage of the presence of Ustadh Zafar, who is my teacher and the teachers of many people here, inshallah. But one thing I wanted to say before you leave is we have brought course books. From today, inshallah, we've made a plan that those who sign up, who want to do this, I will put a message on the group. If you're not on the group, you can join. You'll be assigned a mentor. I know we've said this a few times, but we now have the group for open questions, general questions. That's for brothers and for sisters. And we now have about 3 or 4 sisters for the ladies and 3 or 4 men for the gentlemen, inshallah, who will be assigned a personal one-to-one mentor who can fix your particular issues, inshallah. I'll open up for any questions in case anyone has any. Yes.
I was just wondering, whenever you said, that about the example of the man who came out of the masjid and was like saying that, if you say something but you don't intend it to be like harmful, or but the person involved in it was affected by it and you didn't mean anything by it, you get sin for it.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear that.
So the question was, if you said something, you mentioned a story of someone coming out of the masjid and they said something, but they didn't intend, she's saying if you didn't intend harm, but you said something and it hurt someone's feelings or it did something wrong, would that be sinful?
If you've just said it to yourself, then you just ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like if I've just come out of the masjid and I've said, oh, look at all these brothers, lazy brothers sitting there having a cup of tea, they're not reading their salah, right? Then I ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if I've said it to somebody else, I've now made a witness. Like if I said, Brother Talha, you know these brothers, they're all very, very lazy brothers, yeah. So then I've backbited these brothers. Then I should be asking forgiveness from these brothers then. Does that make sense? Sister? Yeah? Okay. Just want to answer something for our honorable brother here who was mentioning about car parking. Unfortunately, a lot of our Muslims, brothers or sisters, we've become embedded into this mindset of ritualistic worship. We're not truly following the prophetic character. That's why we are doing all the actions that we are doing. So what good is my salah if I'm going for Jummah, I've blocked somebody's driveway, someone's drive, and somebody's been inconvenienced, but I'm sitting here reading my salah, trying to earn rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the completely wrong mindset, because namaz was meant to be, salah was meant to be training for me to be a good person outside of the masjid. What we do all the evil actions, violate people's rights, then I'm saying I'm going on hajj. I'm going to go there, that's going to wipe the slate clean of all my previous sins. I'll get a certificate and I'm back to square one and I can start all over again. No. Fasting, salah, hajj, umrah, everything, even your zakat, is all about personal human development for you to become a good human being. And this is what we've lost the track of. We've lost this science of becoming molded into the prophetic character, unfortunately. And this is inshallah what this course you do free at your own pace, in your own time with mentors, is to create for you that prophetic model of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's way of behaving, thinking, acting, so we can become a true reflection of them. Inshallah. Yeah? Does that answer your question?
Well,
No?
yes and no, because really, I don't see any action being taken to resolve that problem.
That's
even within our own
that's the failings of our leadership.
So
Yeah.
should we not be talking to the leadership?
But we need to become leaders ourselves. So if me and you
Generation.
become the prophetic model, live our lives according to the prophetic model, then at least if everybody in this room becomes the true reflection of the prophetic character, at least every single one of us is not going to park our cars inappropriately.
We should make that as a what you call it, a promise.
Yeah,
Everybody here.
that's right. Yes. If we're doing it properly, then we won't be blocking people's drives. We won't be parking inappropriately. And if you're still parking inappropriately, then you haven't truly reflected that prophetic character. We haven't cleaned our heart of all those bad traits. Next, anybody else? We'll go to this brother here.
Let me
One
just
second.
the microphone.
Yeah.
So I don't read that from
This links into your point and something you said at the start about inferiority complex. I agree and disagree with you at the same time. So there is an inferiority complex. Like a lot of people here and a lot of people I know wouldn't go out in the middle of London just like you are now.
They wouldn't.
They wouldn't, no.
Okay.
But I would say some of it would be from inferiority complex. But I think a lot of it would also be from insecurity, also lack of safety, because there's a lot of right-wing ideology out there right now. Again, linking to the internet, you'll see a video of people praying, Allah, eat the Mars, and you'll get thousands and thousands of people saying, oh, London has fallen, Manchester has fallen, they're taking over, all that nonsense. I'm sure everyone's seen that on social media. It comes across as that. Now, some people might not wear what you're wearing due to a good
fear of reprisal.
No, due to a good intention. So I don't want to advertise. I don't want to make a big statement to give us more negativity. However, you should be proud to wear it. There's a lot of points that come across with the dress and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For example, I'm not going to go into what I do as a job, but I'm not allowed to wear my uniform out in public out of safety. I should be proud of what I do, and I am. But I'm not allowed to wear my uniform because the director's saying it's not safe because it's been attacked. Also, a lot of people might not wear what you're wearing for the concern of their own safety as well, because of the right-wing ideology that's been spread across. Going on to your point, Uncle, integration. So the whole parking thing, we know you're using parking as an example, but it's a lot bigger than that. It's integration, because a lot of our communities, we're just living in a bubble. We do animals, we do this, we're not integrating into society, we're not providing. We just live in our own little Bengali, Pakistani bubble. Don't do anything towards society. Claim off the tax benefit and do that. I think the answer to your problem is to promote integration, give something back to society like we're doing here. The amount of youth groups that Talha has done that I've seen growing up and everything. I'm the only Muslim, not just Muslim, Pakistani in my trade in 10 to 20 years. So I get all these questions fired at me, and I don't know the answers to them. But alhamdulillah, I've managed to answer quite a few. It's like, oh, why do you guys do this? Why do you guys do that? It's not a religious thing. That's a cultural thing. It's lateral cultural integration. If we
Very
don't
good
have an
point.
answer, I go to the expert, my mom.
Good point.
Then she answers it.
I'll come back to you, sister, one second.
It's not really a question. It's more of just a point.
Observation, yeah. I'd like to just mention something on that. This one, yeah.
Try this one. Test. I think it might have switched off from downstairs.
Well, I'll speak at the top of my voice. Yeah. So is this doing anything? No. Okay. Everybody should be pragmatic as well. Yeah. So if this attire you felt you were going somewhere and it may at that time be more appropriate, pragmatic. Islam doesn't have a uniform, by the way. Yeah. It does not have a uniform. I also wear suits, English suits, and I used to wear, which I'm going back into, like tailor-made English suits, which I really like wearing. Right. So I've got suits as well, and sometimes I'll wear a suit where I feel it's more pragmatic to do so, right? The point I made earlier was just a point that, look, we need to be a bit more stronger, confidence, because if the LGBT community can dress in all sorts of stupid clothes and go wherever in public and they don't feel embarrassed, why should I feel embarrassed, yeah?
Because the majority of our Muslims have bad habits, and the image created already is fixed.
That's you've taken the words out of my mouth. What I was going to say, when you say you see these pictures of London has fallen, Manchester has fallen, it's because of my actions. I have not been a true ambassador of the deen the way I should have been as per the prophetic character. All this right-wing resurgence ideology that you are seeing is because of our behaviors that they are reacting to, unfortunately. Why is it that when we as Muslims go into an area, the non-Muslims put their houses up for sale and move on? Because of our bad etiquettes and character, right? If we were such true ambassadors of Islam as the way the beloved Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam conducted themselves and the blessed companions, people should be flocking to be living next door to us. They would be flocking to live next door to us. And where I live, unfortunately, The non-Muslims are selling their houses and going, and all the Pakistani Muslims are coming and buying those houses, right? So we then end up living in that bubble, as you mentioned. It's for that reason, because we are deterring other people away from us.
It's a mentality, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, I've had very hard questions asked to me. They're honest because they're good friends and they've got the guts to ask the question. Why is grooming an issue? Why is drug dealing an issue? This, that, and the other. It's if you take those issues aside, it's just what you've just said. It's the normal day-to-day etiquette.
Yeah.
You can spot the household in a white area.
The problem where I live is a bad parking.
Yeah.
As our honourable brother mentioned,
Perfect example.
people
Sounds petty.
parking on grass verges, blocking people's drives, selling cars from their drives, making them into car trade showrooms.
Drive down Stratford Road.
Yeah.
So-
So, parking issue there.
Inshallah, there's quite a lot of hands up
Yeah.
coming up. And I just
Sorry,
want
there's a
to give
sister with a
opportunity
question.
for people,
I don't know whether she wanted to say something.
It was not a question. I just was confirming what we are talking about. Citizenship, we not talk about citizenship and being good citizen. So being good Muslim and being a good citizen at the same time.
That course book, honestly, it's designed to make us the true ambassadors of Islam. That people, a Muslim should be someone who attracts everyone. When you depart from someone's company, they should feel sad that they are departing from your company, because we should carry an aura about us that when we meet people, that they say we should look nice, we should smell nice, and we should speak nicely. This is what I always say about Muslims, is that we need to be true ambassadors, be beautiful like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We can never be beautiful like them, but in our own way, we can all reflect beauty, right? We can always, you don't have to wear branded clothes, wear simple clothes, but wear nice, clean clothes and be smart, yeah. And smell nice, especially the brothers should be smelling nice with ittar fragrance. And most important fragrance should be the beauty of your words when you speak to people. You're not rough with your tongue, and you're not slashing out at people, you're not negative, you're not swearing. People swear in every sentence, right, when they're talking. Right? How is that showing the reflecting the beauty and character and etiquettes of Islam, right? So it's all good manners and reflecting the attributes of the beloved Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our daily actions and habits. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
Inshallah. Is there any other question?
A lot of it's down to how we've been educated, how we've been brought up. So what you said earlier on, you can be someone in this world. You need to pursue this world as well as hereafter. But from my personal experience, all I've heard is hereafter. Nothing will matter. Your wealth will go with you. Your cars, your houses, your wives. None of that matters. What you should be focusing on is hereafter. And therefore, we fail to educate ourselves, learn good manners, integrate, mix with the wider society, and enjoy greater things in life.
MashaAllah. I'll say final thing. I think we need to close this session now. Inshallah, we can continue with these sessions. We will learn from each other. The final thing I'll just mention about what this brother mentioned is that majority of us, like myself, were children of economic migrants. Our parents came here from abroad to earn money, not to spread the deen. They didn't do hijrah for, to spread the deen. They came here to make money. And we were taught from an early age all about secular education, make money, go university, get a good job, get married, live happily ever after. This happily ever after we're still looking for. Right? It's a myth. Yeah, it can be. If you live your life per Islamic principles, you will have a happier life, inshallah. So inshallah, we'll continue this discussion. We will continue to learn from each other. All of it boils down to living your life as per the prophetic character, which majority of us have failed to do, unfortunately. Yeah. So Jazakallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all.
So just before I ask Ustadh Zafar to close with the dua, inshallah. Inshallah, to those who would like to start fixing the parking problem, start fixing the character problem, you have to know how. So what we want to do is to give you the how. And if you would like, inshallah, if you're not on the WhatsApp group, please come see me, al-hajj you. If you want a mentor, we will now be assigning mentors this week, inshallah. You are welcome to take a course book.
It has everything in there. You can read it. You can start your course yourself. You can go away from here today and begin that.
What I would say is it's best to sit down with people, and it's up to you, whatever you decide. Don't just distribute the books, otherwise many people may not. Up to you.
Okay, inshallah. So for Ustadh Zafar gave wise advice, inshallah. So the book is there. It's useful with context, inshallah. So if you would like to sit with somebody to get some advice on what this is and what this entails, what the commitment is, then Ustadh Zafar is here. You can speak to myself, and there are some brothers as well you can speak to as well, and some sisters for that. But inshallah, the purpose of this is inshallah to motivate you, to excite you, and to begin that journey, inshallah. So therefore, can I ask you to make a dua first, inshallah, to close the gathering?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ya Rabbil Alameen, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Maliki Yawmiddin. Ya Allah, we are your sinful servants who have gathered here to learn the best knowledge of all, which is to learn about yourself on this path to achieve your closeness and to follow the prophetic character of our beloved Messenger Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Rabbil Alameen, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Ya Allah, we ask for forgiveness for all our sins we've committed openly, secretly, knowingly, unknowingly. Ya Rabbil Alameen, we thank you also for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us that we are surely not deserving of. Ya Allah, we are knowledgeless people. We ask you to grant us knowledge from your knowledge and some wisdom from your wisdom. Ya Rabbil Alameen, we pray for all our brothers and sisters who are suffering around this world, and we ask for them to be given salvation not only in this world but in the hereafter. Ya Allah, make us the spiritual warriors that you has intended for us as being the best of creation and being the ummati of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Instead, we have fallen for lowly things. We have become very sinful and worldly people. Ya Allah, allow us to truly recognize our stature as the best of creation and to fulfill the purpose that you have sent us for in this dunya. Ya Rabbil Alameen, help us to overcome the worldly temptations, the shayateen, our nafs, and all the evil people and jinn that exist. Ya Rabbil Alameen, help us, guide us, protect us, and bless us. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Please help yourself to teas and coffees. If you want to speak to anyone, please come, inshallah.
Right, I'm just gonna.
Thank you. Okay? Thank you for that.
Okay, it's an honor, pleasure. I'm okay, I'm gonna stick around for a few minutes, yeah, inshallah. Let's meet some of the brothers. Bilal. What's your name? Bilal.
Bilal. These are my boys.
Aaron.
Yes.
Dylan. MashaAllah, Dylan. So you're all regulars here, yeah, obviously?
We are, yes. So we want to sign up. I think we've been talking about this.
Yeah, what I was saying, just the people who will come to you themselves and they're committed. Otherwise, if you just dish the books out, it's going to be gathering dust on people's shelves and
You want to stop it?
How did you find this session?
Really, really